What's up, you guys? It's Steve here, and you're not going to believe it. We're hearing that Senator Joe Manchin has said that he will agree to an overall price tag for the stimulus package. And this is your stimulus update and your infrastructure bill update. Now, right now, Senator Joe Manchin is coming out on almost every single news article by the hour. All you got to do is Google search Joe Manchin, and you'll see something going on with him and the stimulus and infrastructure package. Now, the question remains, though, will progressives agree with his new price tag, which we're hearing is $1.75 trillion. And we heard that he and Senator Bernie Sanders met with the president over the weekend to discuss working on all the details. And we heard that Joe Manchin said, listen, if you don't want to come down to my price, I'm okay with zero, a goose egg. We don't even have to have a bill. And we heard Senator Bernie Sanders double down saying, listen, $3.5 trillion was my compromise. I wanted $6 trillion. So the question remains, will progressives get on board with his new $1.75 trillion price tag? And also, what provisions will make it in? Will they be able to get this done in time before the president goes to that global summit in Glasgow? And also, are Democrats going to be able to convince the American people that they have gotten something done and be able to hold their position of power in the 2022 midterm elections? So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But you guys, I have got a ton of video footage I'm going to be sharing with you today. We're just going to go ahead and dive right in and take a look at what they're saying, getting you caught up on everything going on right now with infrastructure, stimulus, Congress, and Senator Joe Manchin. So let's go ahead and dive right in as of today, October 26, 2021. But before we do, if you can do me a quick favor, just takes a second. If you appreciate the updates, don't forget, smash the like button. Helps out with the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much. Just takes a second. Also, leave your comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share this out if you think it's going to help out other people. If this is your first time here and you want to stay up to date on all this stuff, hit the subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, and if you got any specific questions for me, shoot them to me in the DM on Instagram at SteveRam3, and be sure to check out my Instagram stories as I'm updating you guys on our little vacation that we're away on right now as well. But with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to start off with a CNN report, and then we're going to be hearing from Senator Chris Coons, who has been in the middle of the discussions between Joe Manchin and Bernie Sanders. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Big developments this morning in the negotiations over President Biden's sweeping social spending package. This package could lead to changes, major changes for seniors, new parents, kids, students. A source tells CNN that Senator Joe Manchin has informed Democratic leaders that he will accept a spending bill of up to $1.7 trillion. And Democratic leaders want to get votes on this started by midweek. This news comes after Biden hosted Manchin and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer at his home in Delaware yesterday. That's the first time he's done anything like that with members of Congress. Joining us now, CNN political commentators Jess McIntosh and Errol Lewis. Errol, I was just looking at Politico. They call this the 9 biggest days of Biden's presidency at this point.
Not an exaggeration in this case. This is the whole agenda. This is the whole ball of wax. Among other things, it will enable him perhaps to go to the G20 and to the climate summit with a win in hand. But the bigger picture is whether or not the Democrats have made good on their promises. This is going to be the question in the midterm elections. This is going to be the question in the re-elect for Joe Biden. This is the whole thing. There are some legislators, John, who have spent their entire lives waiting for this moment. And to a certain extent, Joe Biden is one of those people. There's a lot resting on this. If they get this done, imagine dental and vision for seniors forever, or at least for a few years, and then it becomes forever. Imagine, help for kids going to community college, or at the other end of the scale, pre-kindergarten learning for people, the child tax credit. This is big, big, big stuff. It's our own version of the New Deal. And so, yeah, we could know in 9 days whether or not we get a New Deal or more partisan fighting.
It is a huge social safety net, right? Even initially it was $6 trillion, now it's less, but it's still gigantic. There's still pieces that need to be in place here, though, Jess. And I wonder, Joe Manchin's a key one. What about Kyrsten Sinema? What about progressives like AOC?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, I want to see how much leverage does the Progressive Caucus still maintain. They were significantly stronger than we have ever seen them before in the negotiations that led us to this place. I think we're looking at, do we address as many crises as we can for a shorter period of time, or do we whole cloth jettison jobs or education or childcare or care economy programs that we need? I think this is a wildly popular agenda. The pieces that we are talking about are wildly popular, even in a bipartisan manner across the country. Nobody should be afraid to run on this agenda. So I'm hopeful. I'm going to look for the attitude, that kind of attitude, and hope that we do more in a moment when we need to be doing more.
Well, how much of this is about the framing, though? It's interesting. You talk about what you're worried will not be in it. And Errol, I've been reading quotes from members of Congress who say, we've got to start talking about what people will be getting that they haven't been. Where there's zero now, there will be $1.7 trillion worth.
Well, that's right. We've reported it for months now as 3.5 trillion. Will it get done? And to a certain extent, there are people waking up this morning and will probably be disappointed to hear that it's only 1.7 trillion. We've gotten, I think, a little spoiled in this pandemic era about a trillion here and a trillion there. The reality is that if you're moving toward cutting child poverty in half, that is a monumental achievement that people have dreamt of for generations. And to go further down that road, whether it's childcare or other kind of enhancements, that's a big, big deal. Even if it's means tested. Okay, fine. Let's keep moving forward. Big things can happen. And that underlying proposition, if it's not framed properly, could turn a victory into a defeat in the eyes of voters. And that in itself would be tragic.
I want to agree really strongly with everything that you just said and put into perspective that this is ultimately going to be an outcome story, not a process story. So these days are literally the worst days of having to pass historic legislation. 5-10 years from now, we're talking about future generations and families that have been helped. We are not talking about Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema.
What I heard from Senator Manchin was that he and President Biden had a very positive, a very purposeful conversation over the weekend, as I think we all know. And I reminded him of the urgency of this week and the timing. President Biden goes to the G20 and to the Glasgow Global Climate Conference, and it will make a significant difference if we can get to an arrangement here where the infrastructure bill moves forward on the House and where there's a framework for the Build Back Better bill. Both of them would make historic investments in programs like pre-K and childcare and in combating climate.
So, I know, though, you were also in a meeting last week between Manchin and Sanders, and when you were talking to Axios about that, you talked about the vigorous discussion where Manchin's basically like, I'm fine with zero, with a goose egg, and Bernie says $6 trillion. So do you really believe that, everyone's just going to come down to where Manchin is, and he doesn't move at all, everybody else moves, and that's going to be the way this goes?
Aaron, I'm still optimistic that because there is consensus in our caucus about the need for middle-class families to get more support, to get more help so they can get back to work, whether that's in paid family leave or in support for the cost of daycare or in support for pre-K, that is something we can come together around. I do think the top line is going to be closer to $2 trillion than to the $3.5 trillion that we crafted a bill imagining back in August. But frankly, even at $2 trillion, this would be an historic investment in these critical social needs that have gone unmet for too long.
But you believe that Manchin is going to move from today saying I'm still at 1.5 to 2? You got that feeling?
I am hopeful that both Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema will move on a variety of things, on prescription drug price negotiation, on raising the revenue through changes in our tax policy to pay for this whole program, and in supporting the things we all agree on, which is the need to help families and to help support them as they try to get back to work following the pandemic by supporting things like pre-K and childcare.
Well, I'm glad you bring up, of course, Senator Sinema, because we're talking about, Senator Manchin's. He's had his very specific issues. Senator Sinema's issues have been somewhat less defined, obviously, but also different, right? And you talk about paying for this. Senator Sinema has said that taxing the working wealthy and corporations are off the table. Now, I know there's talk of resurrecting something Senator Wyden's been working on for a long time, a sort of a wealth tax for billionaires. But Wyden's been working on this idea for 2 years. They don't yet have legislative language yet, and so it's unclear how much it would raise, how it would be doable. So is there really going to be a pay for in this bill?
I do think there will be a pay for. I think all of us agree that we should be raising the revenue to pay for this so that we're not adding to the deficit. That's been a core principle that Senator Manchin has asserted over and over. And I do think that Senator Sinema's had constructive conversations with Chairman Neal in the House and Chairman Wyden here in the Senate. There are things we can do to close the tax gap There are hundreds of billions of dollars in unpaid taxes that the IRS, with some additional tools, could help collect on behalf of the American people. I hope that she will come around on raising the corporate rate back to 25, because I think that's got broad support, not just in our caucus, but among average Americans. It is less untested and less unpredictable than doing a new wealth tax. But both Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema have said publicly and privately they want to find a way to raise the revenue to pay for this important package that will move us forward in terms of America's working families.
We'll see what happens with Senator Manchin. Thank you so much, Senator Coons. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Randy.
So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. We heard from CNN reporters and from Senator Chris Coons, who's been in the middle of discussions between Bernie Sanders and Joe Manchin and the president. And they're saying they're very close to getting an agreement, and we might actually have this ready and voted on within this upcoming week, you guys. So I'll be sure to keep you up to speed here on the channel as more information rolls out. And as always, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. Hope this video was helpful. If you made it this far and you haven't already, don't forget, take a quick second to smash that like button. I would appreciate it. Helps out the channel a ton. Thank you so much. Also, leave your comments, share this out. If this is your first time here and you want to stay up to date, don't forget, hit the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell, so that way you can get notified right away as news breaks. And if you got any specific questions for me, shoot them to me in the DM on Instagram at SteveRam3. But with that being said, you guys, hope this reaches you well. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.